Welcome to the new edition of the ABBA League magazine. In the third round there was a replay of the last year's semi-final of the Final Four tournament as Cedevita hosted Partizan. In Belgrade there was a clash of two still undefeated teams, Crvena Zvezda and Olimpija. Krka and Budućnost wanted to retain their unbeaten status as well, and Cibona was chasing its first win of the season against Mega Vizura in Sremska Mitrovica. Of course, the best 5 actions of the round will be presented to you at the end of the show. We only have one piece of the news this time, and it comes from Sofia, where Levski lost its only American Brandon Heath to injury of the Achilles tendon nonetheless, and will need surgery. That is confirmed. He's expected to miss out the majority of the season. We start with the highlights in Hungary. Szolnok was playing their third straight home game, this time against Igor. It was Duško Bunic who opened the scoring, and at the other end it was Christian Wittmann. Szolnok's first more significant lead of the game of 6 points was set by Lazarek Jones as he made it 14-8, but the quarter did end more favourably for the visitors as George Drenovac scored in the last second to make it 14-11. He was also Igor best scorer eventually with 12 points. When Peter Lawrence scored the second 3-4-pointer for Szolnok, it meant they reached a double-digit lead for the first time, and when it was 20-10, but the champion of Bosnia and Herzegovina was quick to react as they managed to put together an 11-2 partial, after which they were only behind by 2 points. Still, the Hungarians were able to finish the half on a high as Stefan Sinovic set the result of 29-23 after the first 20 minutes. Soon after the interval, the home team reached the new highest lead of 11 points when Lazarek Jones scored for 3. Towards the end of the third quarter, the lead was 13 points when Akos Keller was successful. And then Stefan Sinovic again rounded up the period, this time with a 3 in the last second when he made it 44-31. When he scored from distance again in the last period, the home team was still leading by 11 points, but soon the visitors would perform much better, and when Branko Jorovic scored the second of his 2 consecutive 3-pointers, the gap had been closed to just 2 points. Then Mladen Jeremic finally managed to score for 3 in his 5th attempt, and Igor managed to equal the score little over 3 minutes before time. Just half a minute before the end of the game, the visitors took the lead when Marko Čakarević made it 60-58, and then when he missed his second free throw, the Hungarian players lost the ball, and Igor was presented with a chance to actually win the game, in which they were trailing for most of the time, but Branko Jorovic committed an offensive foul, after which Lazarek Jones scored both times from the free throw line to equal the score to 60. Igor had the chance to wrap things up, but 4 seconds from time, Jonathan Jones lost the ball, and then David Vojvoda managed to bring the win home with this dramatic shot from almost the halfway line. Delirium, of course, for the home fans, while Igor had to settle for their 3rd straight defeat of the season. It was quite a memorable way to finish up the game. Cedevita met Partizan in the repeat of the last year's semi-final of the Final Four. It was Cedevita's first home game of the season, and they were also led by Jasmin Repesha for the first time, as he successfully overcame his pneumonia. This time it was Partizan who had to manage without the guidance of their coach, but they did have their new player in the lineup, Luka Bogdanovic. Bilac was the first one to score for the home team, after which the next 4 points were scored by George Gagic. When Luka Bogdanovic scored his first points for his new club, it was the last time Partizan held the lead, when it was 6-5. The first quarter eventually ended with Cedevita in front by 17-13. Soon in the second period we saw the best action of the game when Ivan Ramljak dunked over Edon Muric and was fouled as well when he made it 24-17. Miro Bilan is this year's Cedevita's best player. This time he finished the game on 11 points and 9 rebounds when he scored. The hosts were in front by 8, which was their highest lead at the time. By the end of the half, Nicola Milutino managed to close the gap to 4 points, while Cedevita's lead would be only slightly higher come the end of the first half. The visitors were behind just 2 points when Muric scored 5 points in a row for Partizan, but soon the team from Zagreb was ahead by 9 as they managed to score twice from distance, with Ante Delaš putting it to 41-32. When Luka Babic then scored his first three-pointer of the game, Cedevita had reached a double-digit lead for the first time in the match. It was 46-35 after 13 minutes of play. The home team opened the last period well, again with 2 three-pointers in a row, as Tomislav Zubcic was responsible for opening up a 16-point lead. Then the ex-Partizan player Nemanja Gordic scored 3 times in the following 2 minutes, and the lead had grown to as much as 20 points, and the game was, of course, decided. The home team won the second half by 41-26 to reach their first win of the season, while Partizan had lost for the second successive time, scoring only twice for 3 from 15 attempts, and got outjumped as well by 33 rebounds to just 20. "4,000 people turned up in the Pioneer Hall to see 2 unbeaten teams fight it out for first place in the standings. The MVP of the second round, Marcus Williams, was the first one to score in this game. And when Boban Marjanovic scored twice, Crvena Zvezda was already in front by 7-0, after which Marko Marinovic was able to secure first points for the visitors. The team from Ljubljana managed to balance things up under the basket and started to score themselves, and when Sasu Salin did just that, Olimpija had equaled to 12. When Dino Muric scored for 3 for the first time in the season, it meant Olimpija had finished the first period in front by 17-14. That was then followed by Zvezda's offensive at the start of the second one, as Mark Cirbes scored to make it 25-19. When Luka Mitrovic scored his first three-pointer of the game, he had matched Zvezda's highest lead at the time of 7 points. At the end of the first half, Mirza Bigic scored twice in a row to set the result after the first 20 minutes, when it was 33-28. The home team then started the second half in the similar fashion as the first one and quickly took the lead of 15 points, and that after a 10-1 partial, with Charles Jenkins contributing 6 points to that run. Zvezda had scored as many as 14 points in 3.5 minutes, and when Luka Mitrovic scored and drew a foul as well, the result stood at 48-31. It didn't stop there either when Marjanovic rounded up another 11-1 run. Crvena Zvezda was in front by 23. The visitors collapsed completely in their third period, which they lost by 28-10 when Jenkins made it 61-38 after 30 minutes of play. But the visitors would provide the answer in the last period, which started with Kanacevic cutting the deficit to 17 points. Then it was Marinovic's time to shine, as he scored twice from distance and added 2 points from the free throw line. 8-0 run from the team from Ljubljana, and the gap was further close to 11 points. The guests wouldn't stop there, as they came within 8 points when Mirza Bigic scored 2 out of his 23 altogether that night. But the deficit from that third period was simply too big, and when Marjanovic scored both times for the free throw line just 54 seconds before the end of the game, he in effect prevented Olimpija to stage an incredible comeback. 73-65 in the end, a first defeat of the season for the Ljubljana outfit and a third straight win for one of the main favorites of the league. Krka welcomed back Nebojša Joksimovic, but was forced to play still winless Metalac without the injured Erion Kastrati. It was the visitors who drew the first fire through Mirko Ljubicic, and for the home team, At the other end, it was Alexis Vangmene. Kirka led by 7-4 when Matej Roit scored for 3, but then the next minutes it was Metalac playing better as they scored the next 8 points and took the lead of 12-7. And that by Boris Bakic, which is actually the only foreigner in that team. That was followed by 2 consecutive 3-pointers from the league's best scorer, Malcolm Armstead, but the guests were able to win the first quarter by 19-16 when Nikola Malešević scored. Then Metalac was in front by 23-19 when Nikola Otašević scored for 3, but there it had all stopped for the newcomer in the league. The Slovenian champion scored the next 7 points and took the lead of 26-23. The home team was playing better every minute, with Vangmene blocking Kutlešic's shot, followed by an easy basket at the other end from Nebojša Joksimović, which marked a run of 17-2 for the home team, rounded up by Alexis Vangmene. (36-28) after the first half, with Metalac scoring only 9 points in the second period. Right at the start of the third quarter, Krka was quick to open up a 13-point lead when Mulalic was successful. Then the visitors closed the gap to 10 points for the last time in the game as Đorđe Majstorović scored. As from then on, the gap would only get bigger. By the time Mirko Mulalic scored his third 3-pointer, Krka was in front by 14 points. Then Jasmin Hukic drew the crowd into it by dunking, and the lead was 16 points. And that was also the margin after 30 minutes of play when Alexis Vangmene scored in the last second of the third quarter. Then Krka opened the last period really well with a run of 10-2, and after Vangmene scored again, the lead was already 22 points. And when Chris Booker scored his first 3-pointer, all doubts had been removed as Krka opened up a 26-point margin. Alexander Džikić put some of his youngsters into play then, and then they even succeeded in raising the bar even higher as the gap grew to 33 points when Imran Politak scored. It finished 89-59 in the end, a third straight win for Krka and a third straight defeat for the newcomer in the league, Metalac from Valjevo. Zadar hosted the newcomer to the league, Levski from Sofia. Both teams had 1 win and 1 loss to their name prior to this encounter. Marko Ramljak opened the scoring with a 3 for Zadar, and at the other end the guests also opened their account from distance. And this is this action with Pavel Ivanov being precise. And then the next 11 points were scored from Zadar, and when Josip Sobin scored 2 out of his 12 altogether, he made it to 18-3. Then the visitors did start to play better, and when Miljan Pupovic scored 4 out of his 14 altogether, they had closed the gap to 11 points. Zadar was in front by 29-18 come the end of the first quarter. The Bulgarian champion played better in the second one as they quickly managed to come within 5 points, courtesy of Nikolai Verbanov. Still, Zadar was able to respond immediately through James Florence, and the lead was again 11 points. The result of the first half stood at 46-36 and was set by Nikolai Verbanov. In the third quarter, a perfect offensive by the Bulgarians as they quickly managed to equal the score to 46 after scoring 12 points in succession, as Zadar needed more than 5 minutes to get going in the third period, but they'd wake up in time, and through Florence and Ivanov restored their lead to 56-49. Brandon Heat was the last one to score in this quarter, and the result after 30 minutes was 58-53 for the home team. At the beginning of the last quarter, Dimitrov first equalized to 60, and that action is coming up right now. And then 3 minutes before the end, James Florence, who was the game's MVP eventually, scored an all-important three to make it 73-66. And then 2 minutes before time added another one, and Zadar was in front by 10 points. Pavel Ivanov scored for three with a minute and a half to go to make it 78-71, but that was followed by another 2 3-pointers by James Florence, and the game was of course finally decided. 86-75, the final score in the Krešimir Ćosić Hall. Second win for Zadar. Still undefeated, Montenegrin champion hosted MZT Skopje, who was forced to play without their first-choice playmaker, the Georgian Tintsadze, who injured his knee. The home team took the first lead of the game through Suat Šehović. And for the Macedonians, it was Owen Klassen with a three. Soon Budućnost put together a run of 7 consecutive points to take the lead of 15-8. Šehović was playing really well in that period, and when he was successful again, his team was in front by 9. 27-18 after the first 10 minutes. Alexander Chapin was the key figure for the home team in the second quarter, as he scored twice in a row and set the new benchmark of the game, plus 16 for the home team. That got increased to 17 a few moments later when Reynolds scored and drew a foul as well. MZT did respond though and managed to get a little closer when Alexander Cvitkovic rounded up a run of 6 consecutive points for the visitors. A minute before the end of the first half, MZT managed to close the gap to 8 points, but it was still in double digits come the end of the half, which ended with 52-40. But Budućnost had ran away again at the start of the third period with another good assist from Omar Cook for Čedomir Vitkovac, and the home team was again in front by 16. The only one in the visitors' ranks to match up with the hosts was Ivan Marinkovic. He ended the game on 17 points and 7 rebounds as he managed to close the gap to 14. But that was followed by another good run from Budućnost, and after Subotic scored, the lead had grown to 23 points. The third period ended with Aleksa Popovic in the last second to set the result of 76-53 after 30 minutes of play. Budućnost didn't ease off in the last period, as they were quick to establish a 27-point lead when Popovic scored again, and then Vitkovac made it plus 29 for the home team, at which point the Macedonians surrendered themselves completely to reality and were only waiting for the game to run out. 96-69 in the end for Budućnost, who had reached 96 points with only 2 successful shots for 3, with Dasic and Planinic being the best scorers in their ranks. Two and a half thousand people turned up in Srpska Mitrovica to see their Mega Vizura fight it out with still winless defending champion Cibona. Good news for the Croatians was that Boris Barac was able to play for the first time this season. First lead for the home team was set by Nikola Jokic. And for the guests, it was their captain, Marin Rozic, who a bit later scored to make it 8-2 for Cibona. This is this action. When Danilo Nikolic scored, the home team was trailing Cibona by 10-8. But then the next 10 points were scored by the reigning champion, 8 of which were contributed by Ivan Siriščević to make it 20-8. When Marin Rozic scored his second 3-pointer, Cibona was in front by 13 points, but the home team managed to react in time to cut the deficit to just 5 points. But the period ended with Blasingame scoring for 3, and the result was 27-19. Andrea Bojic then closed the gap to just 3 points, as Cibona needed more than 3 minutes to get going in the second period, when Marko Jagodic Kuriđa eventually made it to 29-24. Then Nikola Jokic managed to score his first three-pointer of the game to make it 37-33. The result of the first half was set by Jure Lalic, who was able to score in spite of being fouled. 43-36 after the first 20 minutes. Cibona was quick to restore their lead of 11 points when Marko Jagodic Kuriđa was successful, but that was followed by a run of 11 consecutive points for the home team and equalized through Nenad Miljenovic. Then it was time for the first lead after the start of the game for Mega Vizura when Andrija Bojic made it 58-56. Nothing between those teams at the end of the third period, as the result was 58-57. And when Alexander Marelja dunked at the start of the last period, the home team had reached their highest lead thus far of 5 points, after which Cibona replied with 9 points in a row. And when Sirišević scored his fourth three-pointer, Cibona led by 66-62, but then Nenad Miljenovic scored the next 4 points and Mega took the lead by 2. That was still a bit less than 3 minutes before time. 50 seconds before the end, Nikola Jokic rebounded well in offense and scored to put Mega 4 points in front. And then the British basketball player Van Ostrom made a mistake at the other end, and which was a precious opportunity lost, as when Sirišević then managed to close the gap to just 2 points. It happened a mere 3 seconds before the end of the game, which meant Cibona had lost their third straight game, while Mega Vizura won for the second time this season. So, a dramatic win for Szolnok over Igokea, while Cedevita beat Partizan for the second time in a row. A first defeat of the season for Olimpia, as Zvezda remains unbeaten. Wins also for Zadar, Budućnost and Mega Vizura, as the defending champion remains winless after 3 rounds of the new season. 3 teams remain unbeaten, and they are of course at the top of the table. They are Crvena Zvezda, Budućnost and Krka. Then of course at this point of the season the middle of the table is quite crowded. Still no wins for Cibona, Metalac and Igokea. Our MVP of the round is Zadar's American James Florence with a playing index of 31. Managed to reach that in a win against Levski, where he played for 35 minutes and had 30 points in the end, 5 assists and 4 steals. And now let's take a look which 5 actions were considered best of the round. We start at number 5. This action from Hristo Zahario from Levski. At number 4 we have this alley-oop, which is closed by Akos Keller, also from the game of Szolnok against Igokea. At number 3 we have another dunk. This time it was in your face by Dimitar Dimitrov. At number 2, Ivan Ramljak over Edo Muric, of course dunking with a statement. This is the second best action from our point of view of this round. And at number 1, it simply has to be this game winner from David Vojvoda. Look at this, for the second Szolnok win this season. There was of course delirium in the stands. How could it not be? This is our best action of this round. Now let's take a look what comes next. The 4th round starts in Aleksandrovac, where Igokea plays Krka. There will be a hot Croatian derby on Monday when Cibona plays Zadar at home. And that's all for today. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, it's bye-bye.